Hey guys, it's Zach back again, finally with another video. And today I am gonna do something that a lot of people have been requesting. We're gonna start to do sort of like logic getting started type thing for voiceover users. So I will just make a few kind of disclaimers up front. You need to know how to use VoiceOver to use Logic. You need to be a fairly proficient VoiceOver user in order to use Logic effectively. And I'm going to assume that you at least have a sort of not advanced, but somewhat of an intermediate level of knowledge with VoiceOver, because it's very different to most Windows screen readers and Linux as well. And there are some things that just don't exist on Windows. So if you're coming from Windows and going to Mac hoping to use Logic right away, you need to learn VoiceOver first. That's a very, very important thing that you need to do. And you need to feel comfortable using VoiceOver to do all the basic tasks you would need to do, browse the web, read email, all that stuff. And so there are some resources that you can use to get started. One of them is built right into the Mac and into Mac OS, and it's called the VoiceOver Quick Start. And when you first get a Mac, if it's new from Apple, and it's never been set up before, when you turn it on, and if you wait, eventually the computer will start talking and tell you that VoiceOver is a feature that will help you if you are blind. And if you need to use, if you want to access the quick start from there, you just have to press the escape key. And on the MacBook Pro with the touch bar, it's a little different, but they explain it all to you when you first get the computer. And if you're new to VoiceOver, obviously you would probably go and do that if you've never used VoiceOver on the Mac before. And if you already have set up your Mac and you're turning on VoiceOver and maybe you've already used it, you can access the quick start by pressing Control, Option, and I believe Command and the F8 key. Let's try it now and see what happens. So right now I'm in the Logic window, but I'm just going to press Control, Option, Command, and I'm going to hold down my function, my function key right to the left of Control, because my F keys are not set up to act just as regular function keys, and I'm going to press F8, and let's see what happens. Whoops. There we go.
The VoiceOver Quick Start. In this Quick Start.
So there we go. Oops.
VoiceOver.
Let's try that one more time. I don't know what happened there.
The VoiceOver Quick Start. In this Quick Start, you'll learn VoiceOver basics, as well as important VoiceOver commands to help you navigate on your Mac and use apps. You can exit the Quick Start at any time and finish it later. To advance through the Quick Start panels now, use the arrow keys located to the right of the main keyboard keys. On a portable computer, they're located in the bottom right corner of the keyboard. The up arrow and down arrow keys are positioned one above the other, with the left arrow and right arrow keys on either side. Now continue to the next panel by pressing the right arrow key. To exit at any time, press the escape key.
So there you go.
Panel 1 of 22.
So that's the VoiceOver Quick Start. I'm not going to go through it now because that's not the point of this video, but just to show you that that's an option. So I'm going to hit press escape.
VoiceOver on Logic Pro X.
Okay, so that's one thing, okay? That's the VoiceOver Quick Start. There are also a ton of resources online if you just look for like getting started with VoiceOver, but one I would recommend, and I'll actually I'll probably update the video later and put a link in the description for this. It's called Appleviz.com, and they are the #1 site for blind people using Apple products. They have been around forever, since like 2010 or so, and they're well connected with Apple. They have a ton of resources on there for getting started with Mac and iOS as well, and all the other operating systems, I believe. And they're a great resource. So after you do the VoiceOver Quick Start, because I think you should do the VoiceOver Quick Start before really anything else, after that, and after you feel comfortable using VoiceOver, check out Appleviz. They have a forum. You can ask any questions. There's a ton of people on there. I'm on there. So if I see any questions about Logic or anything, I'll be happy to answer them. And again, I'll put a link in the description. But you have to know how to use VoiceOver to use Appleviz. So do that quick start. Very important. And I don't think that's stressed enough. Do it. It'll make your life a lot better. So with all that being said, I'm going to assume that you know how to use VoiceOver. I'm not going to describe every single key press I'm doing because it should be fairly obvious if you've used VoiceOver for any length of time that you know what I'm doing. I will explain some things because there are some things that are unique to Logic that you wouldn't normally use in another application. But overall, I will simply assume that you know how to use VoiceOver. If you guys want some like getting started videos on using VoiceOver, I'd be happy to make those as well. Feel free to let me know in the comments if that's something you would like. And I will gladly do my best to make some videos. I might wait actually until the next version of macOS comes out called Big Sur. It's coming out soon. I will not be upgrading for a few months because I'm currently in school and I need this computer to do some production work. So I can't update my OS immediately, but probably by December, you know, around like mid-December when I get on break and I'm done with the semester, I will upgrade to Big Sur and I can make some videos on getting started with VoiceOver if people are interested. But for right now, we're on Catalina, which is the latest version, and that's what we're going to use for getting started with this. So here we go. We're gonna do this right now. So right now, I'm actually in Logic, but let me quit out.
Quit Logic Pro X. Save. Don't save button.
Okay.
Finder.
So I'm not in Logic anymore. So I'm in my applications folder and I'm on the Logic.
Logic.
Yep, I'm on the Logic icon and I'm about to open it. But before I open it, let me explain to you what's going to happen. So when you first get Logic from the App Store, from the Mac App Store, when you buy it for $200 and you install it, you are going to open it, and what's going to happen is it's going to display a dialog saying, okay, so there are sounds available that you need to download, and it's going to start that download process for you. You don't need to do anything. You can explore this dialog with VoiceOver, you know, with the VoiceOver cursor and find out what's going on. And when you do that, you'll see that there are some buttons. There's a button that says, I am new to Logic Pro, and there's a button that says, I have used Logic before and I know what I'm doing. Doesn't say that, you know, but whatever. And you can click on those and read. It'll basically open up the manual, and it will also make a few decisions for you. And I'll get to those in 1 second. So when the download is done, you're going to get a dialog that's asking for your administrator password. So I also want to just make it clear that I would recommend that if you are using the computer, and if you were the only person using the computer, and you set it up yourself, and you won't have to worry about this if you set it up yourself, but if you're getting a computer that someone has set up for you, and maybe they've made an account for you, I would make sure that you are the administrator of the computer if you're going to be the only one using it. I would recommend that because Logic needs that info in order to download sounds, and I have not tried using Logic on like a standard account. I assume it would work just fine, but I'm not sure how the download process would go. So I would say, just to make sure that everything is smooth, if you are the only person using the computer and no one else is, I would recommend that you be the administrator and you just keep that as your account. There are sufficient protections in place to prevent anything bad happening, like installing malicious software or anything like that. So it's not a problem. It shouldn't be a problem if you're careful and you know what you're doing. So yeah, so it's going to ask for your password, and you enter that in. And once you do that, it's going to say, okay, let's install this stuff now. So it's going to go away and install some basic content, and that's not everything that it comes with, but it will install, you know, the basic stuff to get you started. That's mostly what I have on this machine right now. I do have a few additional things, like I have all the drum kits like the stereo drum kits, and I have I believe I have some like bass and stuff. I've had this on here for a while. And so I have some stuff, but I don't have all of it. So you're not even going to see everything that Logic has to offer yet. But basically we'll go away and do that. And then when it's done, you're going to get a few dialogues. So I don't know exactly in which order these appear, but you'll get one dialogue that says, okay, so Logic needs your microphone because it needs to record audio, and make sure you allow that. And they say that in the dialogue. Make sure you allow that, because if not, you're not going to be able to record any audio with Logic. So you can't record your mic or like a guitar input or anything like that. And we don't want that. We want to be able to do that. So you make sure that that is enabled. And then it's going to bring up a dialog saying, hey, there's more sounds. Do you want to download them now or do you want to wait? And I would say, it's really up to you. If you want to download them immediately, go ahead. Fair warning, it will take a couple of hours depending on how fast your internet connection is. So if you want to wait until later, you can too. And you can also download them individually, so you don't need to download everything at once if you don't want to. But it's really up to you how you want to do that. If you just want to get it over with and get everything installed immediately, that's totally fine. If you want to wait and do that, the process is very similar. But regardless, if you do that or not, as far as I know, then the next screen that comes up is going to be a what's new in Logic screen. This comes up whenever you update Logic, but if you install it for the first time, it will come up as well. And basically, it's just like, hey, this is a new version. What's new? Let's show you. So you just click continue because it's really irrelevant to you because you've just gotten it for the first time, so it doesn't matter. But when it gets updated, that'll be great because you'll be able to see some of the new features that are in the update. So that's great. And then you're going to get to a screen that I'm not going to show you because I'm going to open up Logic. And you're going to get to a screen that is going to display some options. So why don't we go through this one by one, and I will show you what everything, or almost everything, does.
Open.
All right, so we're opening up Logic right now.
Choose a project.
Okay, perfect. So also, it's worth noting that I have my Logic configured a little bit differently to how it will come when you get it from the App Store, assuming you don't click any of those buttons that I showed you in the beginning where it's like, I'm new to Logic or whatever. I would recommend maybe just not doing those because a lot of the info, it is helpful, but it's more geared towards sighted users who are just getting started. So for our use case, although you should read the Logic manual because it provides a lot of useful details, and they try to make sure that everything is described so that if you are blind, you are able to follow. But I would say for right now, until they improve some of the accessibility of things, maybe don't rely on it for 100% of your learning. Basically, if you don't click any of those buttons, Logic is going to be in the basic view. And it will look essentially like GarageBand. And if you've used GarageBand before, you'll know that it's a very simple interface. There's nothing, it's a little complex for voiceover users, but all around, the feature set is not as intimidating, and it's quite easy to grasp. And by default, Logic will look almost exactly like GarageBand does. If you click that I am new to Logic button, this is the interface you will see. So basically, it's a very slimmed down version. It's like GarageBand Pro almost. But we don't want that for this because we are going to work with the full power of Logic. We're not working with GarageBand here, so I will show you how to change that. But first, let me show you what's in this interface. So at the top,
table, new project, row 1, selected.
You have a table, and this gives you some options. Let's interact with this and see what's here.
In table, new project, row 1, selected, new project, row 1.
So we have that. If we go down,
recent, row 2.
This is your recent projects. So anything, if you stop interacting and go to the right, you'll see all of the recently worked on projects. That's super useful because if you're working on a few things at a time, you can go in and see what you want to open.
Starter grids, row 3.
This is a feature called Live Loops, which we won't get into today, but we'll get into pretty soon because it's a new feature that's in 10.5 that just came out in May, and it's pretty cool.
Tutorials, row 4.
These are some Logic tutorials. These are mainly on the new features, so they're not really relevant to first-time users, but if you want to look at them, feel free.
Demo projects, row 5.
These are some demo songs. If you download all of the additional content, everything, you will be able to play this demo song, and it's a great way to kind of listen to some music and see exactly how the tracks were put together. It's an original Logic project, as far as I know. It was all produced in Logic. For anyone who's curious, it's Billie Eilish, Ocean Eyes. A very popular song. If you have not heard of it, you have probably been living under a rock. Yeah, it's a very well-known song.
Project templates, row 6.
And then we have some project templates here. This is let's see. Actually, let's go to the right and see what this is.
Out of collection 1 item selected. Image, hip hop.
Okay, so these are like style-based templates for kind of different genres of music. We won't go into these today, but they're helpful because if you're producing in a specific style and you just need some stuff right away, you have that option.
Table, intake, my templates, row 7.
And then these are templates you made yourself. Again, we won't get into all this today.
My template.
And that's it. So let's go back up.
New project, row 1.
And let's go to the right now.
Collection 1 item selected. Image, empty project.
So this just makes an empty project. This is what we want for right now.
Create an empty project. Details, expanded, disclosure.
Now we have some details here. If we go to the right.
Details, group.
We go in here.
In details, group. 17 items, use musical grid, checked, checkbox.
So this is the musical grid. Basically, you want it to be in bars, or do you want it to be in seconds and minutes? We want it to be in bars. In this case, we're just going to leave it.
120, segment 0, slider.
This is your tempo? I just realized this is not labeled. I don't know why this isn't labeled properly. But this is your tempo. So if you interact with this...
In slide 110.
You can go up and down in 10 beats per minute, or if you want to go up and down in 1, you can...
111.
Do VO control option shift and the right and left arrow.
112. 115.
Let's keep it
125.
120.
120. Out tap tempo button.
Okay, there's your tap tempo. So if you don't know the BPM and you just want to tap it out, you can do VO space on this the number of times you need, and it will do it.
C, key signature pop-up button.
That's labeled. This is your key. So this is, what key do you want the song in?
Major, selected.
Major or
minor, radio.
Minor.
4/4, scrubber group.
Time signature. So if you go in here.
In 4/4, scrubber group. 2 items. 4, segment 0, slider.
This is your beat.
4, segment 1, slide.
And this is your, subdivision value. So
4.
Let's say we wanted 3 beats.
In 3.
And 3/4.
4. Segment 1.
So 3, 4.
4. 3.
You can do that, but I'm going to go back to 4.
4.
There you go.
Out. Preset news audio box side 2. Audio input pop-up.
This is your audio interface. If you don't have one connected, or if you're just setting up Logic for the first time, usually this will be on your default speakers and mic. But you can change this per project here, it seems.
Built-in output.
And that's your built-in output. I have that set up because I don't have my speakers turned on right now. So we're just going to use the computer speakers.
Sample rate, 44.1, pop-up.
This is your sample rate. You don't need to worry about all this right now. This is just for projects. If you're doing things for film, or you need to use a different sample rate for whatever reason, you can just set that up right here.
Kilohertz, frame rate, 25.
This is for film.
FPS, surround format.
You don't need to worry about this.
5.1.
This is for surround sound. We don't need to worry about that right now either.
5.
And that's it. So some of this stuff may not appear to you if you don't have that advanced stuff turned on. I'll show you how to do that in 1 second, because to follow this tutorial, you need to have that stuff enabled. So we're going to get out of here and go to the right.
Open an existing project
And
button.
we have open an existing project. If you already have a project on the computer that you want to open, you can do that from here, or you can just open it right from the Finder.
Cancel button.
This is your cancel button, so if you want to get out of this window and you want to do something else, there isn't much else to do outside of this window, but if you want to do something different, you can.
Choose default.
And let's hit choose, because that's what we want to do.
In dialog, new track.
Okay, so this just made a project. And now we are in the new Tracks Dialog. So what's the new Tracks Dialog? Well, it's a dialog to allow you to create tracks for your project, and you can decide what kind of track you want to create, and the settings you want, and how many tracks you want to create. Tons of fun stuff. So let's go to the top of this window. If you've used GarageBand before, this will be very familiar to you. And actually, I would recommend as well, this is something I probably should have said earlier, if you have not used GarageBand and you want to get into Logic immediately, I would say don't do that. Use GarageBand. It's free. You can get it for free. It comes for free on every Mac. And if you have an older Mac, it's free in the App Store. It's very similar to Logic. The interface is exactly the same. It's just a little bit less functionality. And that's a really good way to get started because, again, it's free. You don't need to worry about it. And it's much less intimidating. And if you already have experience with GarageBand, you're going to feel right at home in Logic because the interface is exactly the same, just with more things to control. So I'm going to, I'm not going to assume that you have experience with GarageBand too much in this, but I would recommend, even if you are thinking of getting Logic, do GarageBand first. Try it out and play with it. And you can use some of the same advice that I'm giving here to use GarageBand because some of the functionality is the same. And I'll try and make sure to tell you if a feature might not be available in GarageBand. Again, I don't use it as my primary DAW. I don't have it on this computer. But if you guys would like a series on GarageBand as well, I'm more than happy to do that for you. I have not used it in quite a while, but the interface, from what I remember, is very similar and still is. So I would be more than happy to do a demo of GarageBand and a tutorial on that because that's free and that's something everyone who has a Mac can use. So let's go. So I'm gonna go to the top of this.
Software instrument, select.
We have a software instrument track, and if you've used GarageBand, you know what this is. This is basically if you have a MIDI keyboard that you plug in via USB, or we want to use like musical typing to play the virtual instruments in Logic. That's how you do it, and that's what you would select.
Audio, radio button.
Audio is anything recorded, so vocals, drums, bass, guitar. If you have like a microphone or an electric guitar or like an external, like a synth or something, and you want to play it in and have it recorded as audio, this is what you would choose.
Drummer, radio button.
Drummer is super cool. Drummer is an AI sort of algorithmic drummer that is able to make really realistic sounding drum performances for you automatically. We'll talk about that a lot, probably in a few weeks. This is gonna be like a multi-part series, so we'll go kind of step by step.
External MIDI radio button for.
This is, I believe this is only in Logic. This is not in GarageBand, but this is for people who have external synth hardware. So like maybe like a workstation keyboard, like a Motif. I have one over there, or a sound module, something like that. And if you want to play that and have that recorded in Logic, you absolutely can do that. As far as I know, that's accessible. I don't really have the means to get that set up for you right now, but if people want a video on that, if there's enough interest, I will gladly try and make a video demoing that. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but I know it definitely can be done. So I'd be willing to research that and make a video if people are interested.
Guitar or bass radio button.
So this is guitar or bass. This is, if you have an electric guitar, you can use some amps and stuff that they provide. You don't need to use this track type. I'm not really sure. I think this is just to get you set up quickly. If you want to use it, go right ahead. That's totally fine. But if you use the audio track, that works just as well. You have access, I believe, to the same presets that you do with this. So you can go in and get an amp and some pedals and stuff and go to town. Some of that stuff is not totally accessible to us just yet. I'm sure they're working on getting that squared away hopefully soon, but that is an option. And I believe this is in GarageBand as well.
Dimmed radio button, 6 of 6.
I'm not sure what this is. This is an unlabeled button, and I think has been for a while. It's also disabled, so I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Details, expanded disclosure
So now we have
triangle.
some details. Okay, so this stuff is probably only going to appear to you if you have these advanced tools turned on. So I'm going to show you how to do that in 1 second.
Details group. In details group, 9 items. Drum synth pop-up button.
Okay, so these details will differ depending on which track type you have selected, But for software instrument tracks, this is the plugin you want to load on the track by default. So if you press VO space on this,
menu,
and you go down,
drum synth, submenu.
This is the plugin I have currently.
Empty channel strip.
If you want to load just a blank slate, nothing at all, you don't want any synths, any plugins, you want to tune all from scratch, this is what you would select.
Default patch.
This is what it comes on by default. This is just an electric piano that it loads up so that you have something to play and you can jam out and have fun. And then all the rest of the list is just all of the built-in and third-party instruments you have on your computer.
Alchemy, submenu.
So we have Alchemy here.
Drum kit designer,
Drum
submenu.
kit designer.
Hyphen, drum synth, submenu.
The dash means that it's already selected.
EFM1, FM synth, SE, ensemble synth, SM, monophonic synth.
So they kind of tell you what they do.
SP, polyphonic synth.
I won't go through all these, but there's tons of fun goodies to get stuck into. We won't go through every single plugin on here because that would take quite a while, but I will cover some of the more important ones for sure. But let's just start for now by selecting the default patch.
Default.
Okay, I'm going to go to the right.
Output 1+2, pop-up.
This is just where you want the sound to go.
Open library, check.
This is if you want the library to open when you click create, and that is what we want for right now.
Ascending, unchecked, checkbox.
I'm not sure what this is.
Multi-TI MBRAL, unchecked, checkbox.
This is relating to Midi, I believe, if you want like a multi-timbre instrument. We don't need to worry about that right now, though.
4. DIT parts. Device. Built-in output.
Yep, that's fine.
Button.
Unlabeled button. Okay.
Act button.
So, yeah, you can see there are still some accessibility issues with this. There are some unlabeled elements that they just never got around to fixing, and hopefully they will soon.
Number of tracks. 1. Contents selected.
This is cool. So this is the number of tracks you want to create, because you can create multiple tracks at a time. So if you need like 8 software instrument tracks, if you want to do like a band type of deal, you can totally do that right here. You just type in 8 and there you go. Like if I go and delete this and type 8.
8. Unselected.
And we go back.
Number 8. Insertion.
There we go.
1.
8 tracks. But we want 1. And if you just delete everything, it will replace it with 1 because you can't create 0 tracks. That'd be funny. So if we go to the right again.
Cancel button.
This is cancel.
Create.
Let's do it.
Dialog 4. Window. Untitled. Tracks.
All right, so we have just created a track. Cool. So we now have an electric piano, and here's a cool thing. Let's say you don't have a MIDI keyboard. If you don't, you can just press Command K, and that will load up musical typing. It might already do it for you automatically if it detects that you don't have a keyboard connected, but if it doesn't, you can just press Command K.
Musical typing.
And it will open up a window. Now, this is the musical typing window. Now, you don't need to have this open up, so what you can do is press Control Option Function and then the F2 key a few 2 times.
Lock application chooser menu 2
Whoops.
item. Close window chooser menu 2 item.
There we go. And you just want to go back to the Logic main window from here.
Musical untitled tracks current.
That's the name of the project. There you go. Now musical typing is open and you can still use Logic as before. So if you press any note on your keyboard from A to the semicolon, it plays notes, see? Or apostrophe, rather. So you can even play chords. And the upper row of keys is the black notes. But not every key is the black note. So for example, the R key will record. So you don't want to press that unless you want to record something. And the I key is going to open up the inspector, which you also don't want to do. Unless you want to open up the inspector, but we'll talk about that later. The Z and X change the octaves. It's going down. It's going up. And then C and V change your velocity. So how hard or soft the note is. Like that. There you go. And you might notice too that the transitions between these are very smooth, and the reason why, it's just a fun fact for any synth geeks out there, these electric pianos are not sampled at all. They're physically modeled. So there's no artifacts when you're transitioning from different velocities, which is pretty cool. So it's very smooth. Sounds like the real thing. There you go. Yeah, cool. So now I'm going to show you how to enable these advanced tools, and then we'll keep going. So I'm going to go up here.
Menu bar, Apple.
To the menu bar, and I'm going to go to the right.
Logic Pro X.
And go in here.
Logic Pro X menu. About Logic Pro X. Preferences, submenu.
We're going to go in here.
Preferences, submenu, general ellipsis.
And now I'm going to go all the way down to advanced.
Audit my info, advanced tools ellipsis.
We're going to press return.
Advanced tool.
And
tool.
in this window, you want to make sure this checkbox is checked.
Show advanced tools, checked.
Make sure that's checked. You don't have to enable the other stuff because we're not going to go too deep into that. If you want to, go right ahead. It's not going to, it's not really going to mess you up in terms of getting work done. But you might do some things accidentally with some of these more advanced tools, and it might be a bit confusing. So I would recommend turning most of these off just for now until you feel more comfortable.
Enables advanced features, including project alternatives and backups, expanded mixing and automation capabilities, additional editors in browsers, and more. Additional options become available and can be individually enabled.
So if you go down, I have a few of these checked, I think.
Additional options. Audio, checked, checkbox.
So I have that checked. Let's just go through these and I'll show you what they do.
Enables destructive audio editing and advanced configuration options for audio editing experts. Surround, unchecked, checkbox. Enables all features for surround audio productions and requires a surround speaker setup for monitoring. Midi, unchecked, allows signal flow control and real-time processing of Midi input and output streams in the environment. Control surfaces, unchecked, allows experts to create new and edit any functional detail of existing control surface systems. Score, unchecked, enables the full feature set of the score window for notation experts. Advanced editing, enables advanced editing functionality, including beat mapping, aliases, track reassignment, historic tuning scales, and the tempo interpreter. Disable all button.
So there's a ton of stuff in here. We're just going to leave it alone. And actually, what I'm going to do...
Audio, check, uncheck.
We're going to uncheck that.
Track.
Now also, this is another note. When you do that, the Logic window refreshes and the VoiceOver focus gets placed back into the Logic window. So you need to do the window chooser trick again.
Window chooser menu to
to get back.
Audio.
There.
Toolbar. Show.
And now I'm going to just hit escape.
Untype.
Okay. So now we have that all checked and we're all good. So let's just quickly go through this window, and then at that point I'm going to end the video because this is a lot of info. And in the next part, we're actually going to start to record some stuff and have some fun. So we're going to go to the top.
Tracks legend group out.
Whoops. Also, make sure you're not interacting with anything.
Control bar, toolbar.
Okay. So now we're at the top, and this is the control bar. So if we go in here, this is where you have all of your different controls for Logic. So things like showing different editors or playing the project or recording or going back and forth. Tons of cool stuff. So let's go in here and I'll show you what some of the stuff does.
In control bar, toolbar, 24 items, library, check.
So there's a lot of stuff in here. So the first one is library. This is going to show or hide the library that's in Logic. And there are some key commands for these, and I'll tell you what those are. So the library one is Y. So if you press Y, it will turn it on and off. And the library basically is the one-stop shop for getting all of your presets. So things like basses, drums, effects presets, different presets for the built-in Logic plugins, and some third-party plugins as well, like vocal presets, a ton of stuff. And this is kind of your one-stop shop for getting all those. So if we go to the right...
Inspector, checked.
Now the inspector is kind of like the library, except it's more for kind of editing. So this is sort of your kind of central place to do all of your editing needs. So things like fading in and out, or reversing, or muting things. And there are some key commands for some of that stuff, and you can set up a ton more. There's a key commands window that you can access, and you can set up a ton of key commands. I have a few of those, and I'll show you how to do that later on in another video, but it's very powerful stuff.
Quick help, unchecked, checkbox.
Oh, this is another important point. So there's a feature called Quick Help, which is meant to help you learn some of the features of Logic if you use a mouse and if you hover over certain things. That does work with VoiceOver, sort of, but I would just recommend turning it off because there's another feature for VoiceOver that allows you to do sort of a similar thing. And I'll show you what that is in just a second.
Toolbar, unchecked, checkbox.
This is your Logic toolbar. I don't actually use this, but for some people this is super helpful. I don't know how accessible this actually is to VoiceOver users. I'm not sure if they made this visible at all yet, but it's where you can do things, I think, like undoing and cutting certain sections and things like that. But I think a lot of that stuff is also in the edit menu, so I'm not sure how useful this is.
Smart controls, unchecked.
This is in GarageBand as well. This is your smart controls view. When you're in the library and you're browsing presets, if you want to edit them quickly, but you don't want to get too dirty with the plugins, you can open up smart controls. And also, if you hit B, this will open up smart controls. And you have just simple sliders and different buttons to change the sound. It's very easy to use.
Mixer, unchecked, checkbox.
This is your mixer. This is another way to add effects to Logic to plug to sounds. You can do this in the inspector as well. That's how I prefer to do it. But we'll look at the mixer later on.
Editors, unchecked, check.
These are your editors. So if you are working with Midi, this is your piano roll editor, which is accessible. You can move notes around and change their pitch and delete them and make them longer and everything you need to do. And then there's the audio editor, which isn't as accessible just yet. Hopefully they will fix that soon. But that will let you do really cool things like using flex pitch, flex time, which basically lets you correct the timing of notes in an audio performance, which is pretty cool. So if a note is too short, or if a note is too long, or if it's not in the right place, or if it's not sung at the right pitch, you can change all of that with these tools. And it's great. Unfortunately, a lot of that power is still not usable just yet, but they are aware that that stuff doesn't work well with VoiceOver, and I'm sure they are working to fix that. So hopefully soon that stuff will be accessible, and when it does, you guys will definitely be one of the first to know from me. So I will make a video on that.
Rewind button.
Now you've got your transport controls, so rewind.
Forward button.
Fast forward. This will go by bar, but there are key commands for this.
Stop button.
Stop.
Play, unchecked.
Play.
Record.
Record. There you go.
Cycle, unchecked.
Cycle, which is cool. This is another feature that we'll touch on later. It's basically a way to loop a certain section of the project over and over, and then do certain things with that. You can do a ton of things with that. You can use it to record in a loop. So let's say you have a drum kit, right? And you want to start with the kick. So you do the kick on one track, and then you can keep recording. You don't have to stop, and you can do the snare and the clap and the hi-hat and everything and build it up one by one. And that's really cool. Or you can use it to just work on one section of a song at a time, and then you can change them and do whatever you need to at the end, and that makes it easier to kind of work on a long project because you don't need to do everything at once.
Control bar group.
Now, okay, this is not a very good VoiceOver label. This is exactly what the control bar is, right? We're in the control bar group. This is not the same thing. This is a control bar that is designed to help you with tempo and key. So if we go in here...
In control bar group. 6 items, 1 bar, 1 beat, playhead position, scrubber.
This is your playhead. This is where your song is going to start playing from, or where your editing is going to start. You can use this slider to move it around. So if I go in here.
In 1 bar, 1 beat, playhead position, scrubber group. 2 items, 1.
It's just like the time signature. So 1 is the bar.
1 beat, slide.
Let's say I want to change the beat to 2.
In 1 bar, 2 beats, 1 division, 1 tick.
There you go. Or
1 bar, 4 beats, 1 division, 1 tick.
And if you go past the 1,
2 bars, 1 beat, 1 division.
It'll just go to the next bar.
2 bars, 2 beats, 1 division.
Let's say you wanted 2 bars, 2 beats. That's how you could do it. But that's just one way. I have some key commands already set up, and I'll show you how to do that later, to where you're able to do this with key commands, and it's very easy.
Out of 2 bars, 2 beats.
We're going to go right now.
120 tempo slide.
This is your tempo, and here it's labeled. So I'm not sure why it's not labeled in the project dialog, but it's okay. You can change it from here.
4/4 time signature pop-up.
That's your time signature. This is a pop-up button now, so if you go in here,
menu checkmark 5/4 6/8.
You have some preset ones, but if you want to make your own
7s 12s custom ellipsis.
You can go to custom, and then take a look.
Number of close popover, number of beats 4, segment 0, slide in slider 3.
Let's say we wanted 3.
Note value 4.
Let's say we wanted
in 4.
Like, oh, whoops, that's a pop-up button.
Beat group 4, 8.
Let's say we wanted 8.
8.
Just why not?
Close.
And I close this.
Press track.
And now if I work with a click.
Metronome on.
I press K to toggle the click on and off now. And if we listen. That's That's your 3/8
Metronome
pattern. But we're gonna go back to 4/4.
Library
So I'm going back in here.
Control 3/8 12/5/4/4.
There we go.
4 what? Met
Yep.
3
There you go.
What?
If we go to the right,
Project tempo pop-up menu. Choose whether the project tempo is maintained, adapts to the tempo of audio recordings and imported audio files, or if Logic Pro determines the project tempo behavior. Pop-up button.
now this is actually using the help tag as the label. This is a voiceover feature, I believe. They just didn't put a label on this pop-up button, but it explains what it does. Basically, this is a really cool feature in Logic that we'll touch on later called Smart Tempo. And Smart Tempo is really cool because it allows you to record without a click track, and then Logic can follow your recording and make the click track follow you. Or if you don't want that, if you want the tempo to be rigid throughout the whole song, you can make your recording follow the click track, and you don't need to do any manual editing. Logic does it all for you. It's really cool.
C major, key signature, pop-up button.
This is your key. If you go in here,
Menu checkmark, C music sharp sign,
you have the majors.
D music flat sign major, D major.
And then if you go down,
B minor.
you go to minors.
A music sharp, a minor.
There you go.
C, beats and project, display mode, pop-up button.
This is how you want this playhead to be displayed. If you want it to be displayed with time, let's say, we can do that. So
Beats, time.
now if I go back up,
1 hour, playhead.
this is not actually 1 hour. It's just saying that you're at the start of the project. It goes by hour. I'm not sure why.
0 minute slot 1 hour 0 minute.
So
1
hour,
0
0 minutes, right?
0 second slot
And 0 seconds.
0 frames
This is frames for video.
0 subframes 0.
So
0.
let's say I wanted
1 bar 3 beats 1 division 1 tick.
1 second. Now it's saying bars because Logic is still snapping to a grid. So when you use the left and the comma and period to go back and forth through the project, it's still going to show you bars. But this playhead here will show you the time. And this is super useful because if you need to work in bars, but you need to make sure your project is a specific length of time, this is a great way to monitor that and figure out where you need to cut things in order to make it fit. This is where this is super useful.
Out of slot.
So
out of.
now we're exactly 1 second through.
1 hour 1 second.
There you go.
1 bar 1
We're
beat.
going to go back, though, and I'm going to change this back to
1 hour time is
beats. And also, when you actually do this, it hides all those other controls like the time signature and things like that.
beats and time. Beats and
You can also have it do beats and times. If you need to see both, you can.
beats and time large. Beats and project. Beats and project large.
We're just going to go back to
Beats.
beats and project.
Beats and C major.
There, and then C-lip.
Beats and project.
There you go.
1 bar 1 beat.
Cool.
104 slash beats and pro.
So there you go. And that's your control bar.
How to-
Now you have some miscellaneous things at the end here.
Replace unchecked checkbox.
This is replace. Let's see what the help tag is for this. Oh, that's what I'm going to show you that next feature. So in a lot of these controls, Logic has what's called a help tag. And a help tag is basically a little bit of text that tells you what the feature does. And to read those, you press Control, Option, Shift, and H for help.
Replace button. Replace an existing recording or a portion of it with a new recording.
Okay, so this is for Midi, I believe. So if you check this box and then you record over something, it's going to replace whatever you have recorded there before, like an old tape recorder would. So that's all that does.
Tuner, dimmed unchecked, check.
This is your tuner. This is for if you play guitar or another stringed instrument that needs to be tuned. It's dimmed because we don't have an audio track right now, but if we did, you could check this. And I believe the tuner is accessible. I have not tried it, so I'm not 100%, but as far as I know, it does work. And I'll look into that and let you guys know.
Solo, unchecked, checkbox.
Let's see what this is.
Solo button. Here selected regions only during playback.
Ah, okay. So this is important. This will help you when you're editing. I don't use this feature, but it actually might be really helpful. So if you turn this on and you have a song, right? And let's say you're editing, this is getting a little bit advanced, but we'll go over this later. I won't show you how to do this now, but we'll talk about this. So if you are editing and you need to split something. So let's say I have let's say I have a few notes on a guitar, okay? So let's say I have 3 notes, right? I want to make the second note its own like little region so that I can edit it separately from the other 2, right? So if I go to that second note and I split it off from the rest, when I press play, the only thing I'm going to hear is that region. I'm not going to hear anything else. That's from what I'm getting from this. I will try it and let you guys know because I don't use this feature. But it could potentially be very useful for editing. So I will try this out and let you guys know how it works.
Count in, checkbox.
This is your count in. So when you're recording, Logic can give you a 1 bar or a 2 bar or a 4 bar count in or an 8 bar count in even before you start recording. So you have time to get ready and prepare. And by default, it's on. If you want to turn it off, you just uncheck that box.
Click, check.
This is your metronome. You can also turn this on and off with the K key.
Metronome off. Metronome on. Plus 0.0 dB. Master volume slot.
This is your master volume. If you want to turn the volume of all of the tracks in the project up and down, you can do that with this slider.
List editors, unchecked, checkbox.
Now these are some various editors. We're not going to go into this right now.
Notepads, unchecked, checkbox.
This is your notepad. If you need to write lyrics or instructions or things like that in the project and save it, you can open up this notepad and write whatever you need to.
Loop browser, unchecked.
This is really cool. We'll talk about that later.
Browsers, unchecked.
And this is for browsing all of the files on your computer.
Browsers.
But we don't need to use this. You can if you want. It's just a way to browse files. But there are several ways to do things in Logic. So you'll come to find that soon enough. So that's the control bar. Now, if we go to the right...
Out of control library group.
We have the library. Now, this is also important because you're able to browse sounds in here. So why don't we go in here and I'll take a look.
In library group. 8 items. Classic electric piano.
That's the preset that you're on.
Horizontal search sounds. Search text field.
You can type any search terms you want in here and Logic will try and find sounds for you.
Library browser.
If you want to browse by category, you go in here.
In library browser. Vintage electric piano. Vintage electric piano.
So we're on vintage electric piano right now. That's the category. If I press Control Option down.
Drum kit.
These are all of your categories. So if I go up one.
Bass.
You have bass. And I don't have all of these because I don't have all the content installed.
Drum kit. Electronic drum kit. Guitar. Orchestral. Percussion. Piano. Quick sampler. Synthesizer. Vintage B3 organ. Vintage clav. Vintage electric piano. Arpeggiator. Arpeggiator.
There's more. Don't worry. That's not all that's there. But I don't have all of the content, so it's not showing me everything. By default, though, it will show you all of the content you can download. And if you find something that you want to download, you can just press VO space on it, and that will download it for you.
Vintage electric piano. Vintage clav.
So let's say we want to open up this category. If I press Control Option right arrow, it'll expand the list.
70s funk clav.
Now we have all of the presets in this folder.
Classic D6. Cop shell clav. Deep funk clav. Distorted clav. Flying clav.
Let's say I want to...
Funk spinet.
Let's say I want to try...
Codo clone.
This one. I'm going to open up musical typing again because it's closed.
Musical.
And again, that window pops up, so I'm going to make it go away.
Window chooser. And
now if I press some notes, we have a new sound. And now I can just keep browsing presets.
Pawn shop clav. 70s clav.
We can try a different category. I'm going to try some drums.
Drum kit. Blue Ridge. Bluebird.
Let's try this one. There you go.
4 beats.
Whoops.
1.
There are a lot of sounds in here.
Brooklyn. Detroit.
I'll try one more. It's just loading all the samples. Some more sounds up top. Got a shaker. There you go. You got some drums.
Drum.
We want to try, let's say,
guitar.
some guitar.
Amp synth lead. British combo synth lead. British stack synth lead.
Oh, if you want to do pitch bends with musical typing, you can press the 1 or 2 key. And if you want to use like the modulation wheel, that would be on a Midi controller. You can press 3 through 8, and that will make the modulation go higher and higher. There you go. That's like an electric guitar sound that you can use.
Guitar.
And yeah, there are tons of other presets. We can go down.
Percussion. Quick set.
Go look
Synthesis.
through.
Vintage B3 organ. Synthesizer.
So if we go to synthesizer, we have a ton of different categories.
Bass, bell, brass, bell.
Go to bell, for
air
example.
Bells.
Go down a little.
Antarctic sock, broken bell.
Try this.
Cathedral bells, chimera bells, dark alien.
Try this one, maybe.
Delicate dark alien bells.
Oops.
Delicate.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, tons of presets, lots and lots of sounds, thousands of sounds. They keep adding more all the time. So even if you get Logic and you wait, a little bit, and you think you're running out of sounds, they'll update it and they'll just add a ton more. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. So there you go. And of course, you can make your own from scratch. That's totally accessible and doable with most of the plugins in Logic. And yeah, there you go. So that's just a quick overview. There is another section in here that we'll look at later. It's the inspector.
Tracks group track.
I don't have it open right now, actually.
Lock control.
Let's open it and I'll show you.
Library inspector group.
So this is the inspector. If we just go in here real quick.
In inspector group, 8 items, expanded disclosure triangle.
So you have some options in here for doing things like editing regions.
Region, MIDI defaults, table. Collapsed track.
Editing tracks.
Bluebird, mixer layout area.
We have some mixer controls, so doing things like adding effects to this sound we have here. This bell sound. If I wanted to add an effect, I could do that in that group.
Out of tracks group.
And then we have the very important tracks area. This is where all of your track controls are. If I go in here real quick.
In tracks group, 2 items, tracks, toolbar.
We have a toolbar here.
In track edit, menu, functions,
So we have some editing controls.
View, show/hide live loops grid, unchecked, show/hide tracks view, checked, show/hide automation, unchecked.
There are key commands for a lot of this stuff as well.
Out tracks group.
And then if we go in here.
In tracks group, 4 items, tracks legend group.
So some of these are not really relevant to us. Like, for example, this, if we go in.
In tracks legend group. 3 items, new tracks, option command N button, new track with duplicate settings, command D, show/hide global tracks G.
So there are some controls like we can make a new track from here, but there are shortcuts as I just told you.
Out of tracks time ruler timeline. In tracks time ruler timeline. 3 items, off, cycle region layout.
This is for your cycle region. This is where you would go to adjust the length of that region. And we'll talk about that later.
128 bars, end marker, value.
Oh, this is your end of the song? If you want the song to be a specific number of bars and you don't want it to go over that number when you're doing editing, you can adjust it here. By default, it's set at 128. If you record past that, it will just extend as far as you need. So you don't have to really worry about this. But if you need to shorten the length of the song, you can do that from here. It'll just make editing easier.
1 bar, 2 beats, 1 division, 79 ticks.
And that's another position of your playhead. There's a lot of redundancy in Logic, but it's good because it shows you the information you need, whichever part of the interface you're in.
Out of tracks header group.
These are your track headers. If we go in here real quick.
In track 1, delicate bells group.
The only track I have on here is this delicate bells, but if I had more, it would show me the other tracks.
In track 1, delicate bells group. 7 items, horizontal splitter, 0, collapse.
So this is just visual stuff.
Horizontal splitter.
If we go to the left.
Delicate bells.
All the way to the left with VO home.
Mute, unchecked, checkbox.
You have your mute button. That'll just turn the track off so you won't hear it. If you want to do that, you can also press M.
Toggle channel strip mute on. Toggle channel strip mute off.
Like that. And then right next to it is solo.
Solo, unchecked, check.
And what that will do is if you have a track playing, so let's say you have some bass and drums and guitar and piano. And let's just say you want to hear the piano. If you press solo on the piano track, everything else will go away and all you'll hear is the piano. And if you want to do that with the keyboard real quick, you can press S.
Toggle channel strip solo on.
Like that.
Toggle channel strip solo off. Record enable, checked.
This is record enable. So this is, if you want to arm your tracks to record, you would check this box. Otherwise, it will not allow you to record on that track. And that's a safety thing. So if I have some audio tracks and I don't want them to be recorded onto, you can just uncheck that box and then it will protect it from being recorded over. Obviously, there's undo, so there's really no harm in leaving this checked, but if you really want to be safe, you can turn that off.
Plus 0.0 dB, volume slider.
You have your slider for volume. If you go in here and you want to adjust the volume, you can go up and down. So if I press Control Option right arrow,
plus 1.0 dB.
it'll go up and down.
Minus 1.0 dB.
And of course, if you want to move in smaller increments, you hold the shift key.
Minus 1.1 dB. Minus 1.2 dB.
Just like that.
Minus 2.2 dB.
There you go.
Out 0 pan. Circular.
Same with the pan if I just do that real quick.
10 of 63. Right channel pan. 10 of 64. Left channel pan. 0.
Same deal.
Out horizontal.
And then you have the splitter here that I told you about.
Out of tracks header group.
And one more thing.
Tracks contents group.
We won't see anything in this right now, but this is your track content area. So if you have track selected in that header area, if you go to this area here and you go in here, you'll see that same list of tracks. But if you go to the track that you want to edit and you interact with it, you will see all of the regions that make up that track. And you can do tons of things in there. You can delete regions, you can mute them, you can, depending on what track type you have selected, you can reverse them, you can extend or shorten them, tons of stuff. You can move them around, copy them, repeat them, tons of stuff. So I will show all of that to you in much greater detail soon when we actually get to start working on a track. But that's just something to look forward to. So yeah, I hope this video has been helpful. I know it was a bit of a sort of a quick tour of the basics, but Logic is a very complex piece of software that requires a lot of time to learn fully. I don't even know all of the features, as you saw earlier when I was trying to explain some of that stuff. So, I don't even use some of the stuff that it provides. But the cool thing is that you won't break anything. So you can just go in and learn stuff and have fun, and you don't need to worry about causing complete corruption of your computer or having it, I don't know, explode or something. I used to worry about that when I was little and I was first starting to use computers. I was like, oh, if I do something wrong, something horrible will happen. But usually 9 times out of 10, it won't. Nothing bad can happen. The worst that will happen is you maybe delete something accidentally. And there's always undo, and there's the trash, so you don't need to worry too much. For me, I learned Logic mainly by trial and error. I would read the manual, and that really helped a lot. I would really recommend, in the meantime, while I work on some more videos, go ahead and read the manual. You can find it on Apple's support website. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's a fully accessible manual. It's also on iBooks as well, or Apple Books rather. So if you have an iPhone, you can go into the Books app and just search for Logic Pro Manual or like Logic Help, and you'll find it. It's free, and it's a great introduction to Logic. They explain things really well in there, and that'll give you a head start, especially if you've already used GarageBand before. This is probably, and this is in their own words, this is the easiest transition you'll ever make, because the interface is the same. It just gives you more options. So if you're already familiar with GarageBand, there isn't much for you to learn. I mean, just dive in and explore, really. When you start getting into the power of Logic, you'll be very glad that you made the switch. But again, for people that are completely new, I would recommend starting with GarageBand. Again, it's free. You don't need to worry. There's no risk if you already have a Mac. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. And then you know that Logic probably isn't for you because you don't like the interface, then you want to find something else. But it's a great way to try. So it's like a demo almost of Logic, except it's a completely different app. But it's a great way to sort of try some of the features out. Logic also has now a 90-day trial, a 3-month trial. So before you even buy it, you can go on the Apple website or just Google search Logic trial and you'll find it. And you just download it, and it's a fully featured version of Logic. You get all of the sounds, as far as I know, unlimited functionality for 90 days. 90 days, that's 3 months. That's a lot of time to get to grips with the feature set. And I would recommend doing that even before you buy it to really, really, really make sure that it's something that you want. They didn't have that before. Before, when you wanted Logic, you had to buy it, and if you didn't end up liking it, you had to get a refund, and it was a whole deal. But now that they have this trial, go ahead and give it a shot. Use GarageBand first. I would definitely still recommend that. Learn the ins and outs of GarageBand. I will gladly do videos on GarageBand if people want. I absolutely could do that for you. But do that first. I really, really highly recommend. I see a lot of blind people. I'm on a Logic WhatsApp group who seem to start just with Logic right out of the gate, and that's totally fine. I'm sure there are sighted people that do the same thing because they probably are coming from other software packages and want to just get right in, and that's totally fine. But I think for a lot of blind people, especially using VoiceOver, it's a bit of a different experience, and I think ultimately it's better to start off with something a bit more simple, free. You have a ton of sounds, and you never know, you might like it, and you might say, well, this might be enough, and I don't need to spend the $200 on Logic because maybe this is all you need if you're just doing demos or very simple things. You know, GarageBand's really all you need. You don't need Logic for that. And again, it's free, and the fact that it's free is amazing because it's pretty powerful for what they allow you to do. But again, Logic is what I use, my primary, and that's what I will primarily be focusing on. But again, if you want some videos on GarageBand, you let me know in the comments and I'll make those for you. So there you go. That is my sort of intro to Logic. This turned out to be a very long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. Again, feedback. Give me feedback. I will try to improve based on that, and you let me know what you want to see, because otherwise I'm just going to go off of sort of what I assume people would probably want to learn about, and that's not helpful because that's not personalized to you guys. So I want your guys' opinion. What do you want to learn about? And I will try and make those videos for you if I know how to do what you want to do. And if not, I will try and learn. So there you go. That is my video for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon.